Oh my god, she's a weirdo.
Hello, 'tis I, Fat Cow. Foodie obviously went live again. She has nothing else to do with her life, so there's that. And is really, really, really trying very obviously hard to sell the narrative that her and Salah are finished and that she goes to Canada and that's the end of everything. So, Foodie is home alone again. There's a bit miffed about it, allegedly. It's not as if being home alone with food isn't the most favourite activity of foodies in the whole entire world. No. Apparently this time it's an issue. So, Foodie, in yesterday's live, pushed the narrative that they were going to go to a wedding but she didn't want to go. And evidence of this wedding was Foodie wearing a different hijab and some makeup. You know, I'm dressed to go out. Look at me. I'm obviously going to a wedding. Well, the hijab was different. The thing underneath the hijab wasn't anything special. You wear it all the time. You wouldn't wear it to a wedding. But I digress. Also, I'd like to point out that when Foodie puts on makeup to go out, as in out, especially to like an event, she would go full glamazon. And that was minimal attempt at makeup, if any. It could have been a filter. So I'm suspecting the narrative of a wedding to be somewhat factitious. But let's assume, just for the sake of, you know, that it is true. Okay? She didn't want to go and made it very clear to us she didn't want to go. And so when she told Salah she didn't want to go, he just said fine. Well, of course he said fine. He's used to Foodie letting him down and backing out of things last minute. So there's no point trying to convince her otherwise or to change her mind. It's literally pointless. So it wouldn't have been a surprise or a lack of emotions or feelings for him to have not argued with her about going because he's just doing as she wishes. It's almost the reverse. Because one point on another thing, the camping trip that she didn't go on, she accused him of almost forcing her to go. So Salah can't win in this scenario, if it was true, which it isn't. And she's just trying really hard to sell the narrative that Salah doesn't care and they're breaking up. And you're trying to sell it a little bit too much. You're bordering onto Amber Lynn territory when she's trying to prove something wrong that was obviously right. She tends to go on and on and on and on about it and repeat it and think if she says it often enough, we'll change our mind. Well, we won't. During these lives, I didn't count, but how many times did she say, I'm alone or I'm by myself, pushing the narrative again and again? She really is trying because she knows people don't believe her and Salah are officially over and that Salah is trying to get him to Canada. She said, if Salah was coming to Canada, why wouldn't I tell you? Well, the answer to that is very simple. If you said to us, Salah's coming to Canada, it's less of an exciting narrative to try and raise money around because people sending you money to rescue you from this situation so that you can rebuild your life from scratch is more empathetic than raising money to bring your husband to Canada. Additionally, admitting that you're bringing or trying to bring, because you will fail, Salah to Canada is pretty much further evidence, and very, very good evidence, that the whole thing was a romance scam and that Salah's aim was always to come to Canada. It just proves a different narrative, a narrative you don't particularly like, doesn't it, Foodie? All he's ever wanted was Canada. He's already tried twice. So if you're so struggling so hard to be alone, Foodie, why are you renting an entire townhouse to live in alone? The bits of the puzzle don't fit, sweetheart. So you're trying to convince us that you and Salah are over. The last week, since you've gotten things one step further towards Salah's goal of coming to Canada, it's been awfully nice to you, you know, on lives, suddenly. Just saying. You're saying you've been a really, 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 really good friend to Pete's, and then all you list as reasons for why you're such a good friend to Pete's is because you've paid for lots of stuff and helped him out financially. Well, your idea of being a really good friend, girlfriend, wife to men is to throw money at them. Okay, that's you being good to them, is throwing money at them, but then treating them exactly how you want to, which isn't a good anything except to a romance scammer. That's a very convenient relationship dynamic to a romance scammer, someone who throws money at them, treats them like shit, but meh. I mean, it's for money, it's for immigration, it's for Canada. It's also talking about, wow, this is why I'm going to be single forever. Yeah, it's to explain why you're saying I'm going to be single forever. I'm not interested in dating. I don't want another relationship, so that you can justify why you don't go on Tinder as soon as you arrive in Canada, because you would if you were actually legitimately single, because you're too needy and you need the reassurance that you're desirable, that you have to actively try and find males that are interested in you. So this whole I'm going to be single forever, I'm better off, well, it's just because you're not, in your brain, single. You're still married. Well, married. And you're staying married. If the hijabi stays on when you're in Canada and you don't date, flirt, or anything with other men while you're in Canada, it's just further evidence that you are still married and Salah considers you his wife and you're trying to get him to Canada. Yes. You said if we were going to use Sasa for money, if this whole thing with Sasa was a scam, then you would have had her on the channel repetitively, asking for money. The reason you didn't do that is because of the backlash you got initially. That's the only reason. And the difference between you monetizing a vulnerable child and other people having children on their channel is this. Now, obviously, the child on the channel is content. That content generates revenue, right? That's your argument as to people monetizing children and why your monetizing of a vulnerable child is no different to other people's monetization of a child. They have children in their content and it happens to make money. You have a child on your content that happens to make money with the ad revenue, fine. But you are also actively asking for money. That's the difference. These people have children on their channel but don't ask for money for the child. You had a vulnerable child on your channel and actively asked for money. And isn't it wonderfully convenient that all your, or the majority of your larger donations, your donators, asked specifically not to show receipts? And also, isn't it wonderfully convenient that your narrative now is you were raising money for clothes and transportation, and you've dropped the raising money for fees business because I've proven you didn't need to raise money for fees. So suddenly the fees is gone. That $1,000 is now for clothes and transportation in a country that their currency is so poor against the dollar that $1,000 is more than most Syrians get in a year by a significant amount. So you raised 2 years worth of the average salary for a child for clothes and transportation for school. 2 years salary for schools that don't require any fees at all. So your narrative is even weaker now, Foodie. Had it been for fees, it would have justified the $1,000. Yeah, it makes even less sense now that you've dropped the fees bit. Also saying that you're just like your grandmother. Your grandmother pushed everybody away, and after she got divorced, she was alone and had no relationships, and how you're like your grandmother. This narrative you're trying to sell us, this narrative that you're trying to tie up with a little bow and hoping people will accept it, the more you talk about it, the less we believe it, and we don't believe it already. You're literally just giving us stuff to talk about. And then Salah, very conveniently at one point says, I'm going to the park for 6 hours. What a weird way to say I'm going out for 6 hours. He's also trying to sell the narrative. 6 hours, oddly specific amount of time to announce randomly when historically, you're not the kind of person who announces the duration of time that you'd be going out for. It's not your nature to say, hi, I'm just going to the shops. I'll be about 45 minutes. Hi, I'm going to visit my mum. I'll be about 3 hours. You just say I'm going out. That's what you do, Sally. You just say I'm going out. You don't say I'm going out to the park for 6 hours. It's not your normal way of speaking to Foodie. So that's odd. And also, as soon as he got back from being out for 6 hours, Salah immediately said about the drama and how Foodie reacted about going out. That's the first thing he said to her. Oh, the drama. Gosh, when you happen to be on a live, Foodie, how wonderfully, wonderfully convenient. And also, one final observation. On 3 lives in the last, days, weeks, Salah has arrived from being outside to inside while Foodie is live. And each time, the very, very first thing Foodie says to Salah is, can you go and get me something? She waits for him to come home to run around for her, getting her water, bringing her this, bringing her that. Oh, yeah, and also to bring food back, which we knew. But that's what the relationship is. Foodie sits. Salah runs around and gets stuff for her. She's not going to give that up. Not in Canada. No. She needs her little minions to do her bidding for her while she reclines on her chaise lounge, or however it is you pronounce it, eating grapes. The only thing she's missing is a toga, but she's currently wearing that around her head.